Got my lumberjack look on, got my fur throw. I think I'm ready. It is officially November, so today is all about Christmas decor. Now, I say Christmas because that's what I personally celebrate, but regardless of what holiday you celebrate in the upcoming months, or if you don't celebrate anything at all, maybe you're doing some entertaining coming up and you want things to just be a little bit elevated. Maybe you just want things to be a little bit more rustic and cozy for the winter. Regardless, I hope this video has something for everyone. So I'm going to go over a few design styles in this video and talk about how you can seamlessly incorporate seasonal decor within your home in a way that feels natural and suits your personal style. Within each design category, I'll first go over some inspiration. So what are some key elements that we're working with that style? What are people, places maybe you can visit after you watch this video as a bit of a jump off point? I'll also share a color scheme that I think suits your style. Foliage is a huge one for me regardless of the time of year. It's just always a key factor in my decor. So for each category, I'll also go over some natural elements that you can bring into your home from outside. For those of you that put up a tree around the holiday season, I'm also going to talk about some elements that you can bring into that to kind of express your style a little bit more. I know that a tree for a lot of people is very personal. A lot of people collect ornaments over the years and kind of just mush it all together to be like nostalgic chaos, which is amazing if that's your kind of treat, but I'm also going to talk about some little elements that you can kind of sprinkle in on top to make it a little bit more cohesive. And then finally, I'll share with you some accents that will just be the little cherry on top of each style. Okay, we're gonna get started with probably my favorite style. I would say I definitely lean towards classic when it comes to my interior design sort of taste. So our inspiration for this is very much New England, Ralph Lauren. It's upscale, but it's also casual at the same time. So we're making big statements, but then kind of letting the rest of the decor remain simple so that those elements can pop more. A color scheme that I absolutely love and I think is so classic, but I don't see people doing very often at the holidays, is this sort of like Delft blue and navy look, so pulling out a lot of different blue tones. And then I also love the look of mixing that with citrus tones. I think it's so stunning. I don't always gravitate towards blues when it comes to my decor, but something about blues, like deep rich blue tones at Christmas time, I just love the look of that. So for foliage, I think something that is such a classic look is a wreath, of course. I think wreaths work for any style. I am a wreath fanatic. The most classic wreath, in my opinion, you want to go for one type of foliage, and it might sound kind of boring, but bear with me. I think that something that has a little bit more stiffness to it, like a boxwood or a spruce, is really ideal when you're going for one type of foliage. And then for the hanger, for the most classic wreath, I love the look of a velvet ribbon in like a deep jewel tone, or honestly in pastels, it's gorgeous too, or a classic red, whatever it might be. But I love the look of it hanging off the wreath, so you just weave it through the center and then tie a bow at the top to hang it. I think that is such a pretty look. It's again very upscale, but there's a casualness to it, and I just love those two things kind of juxtaposing each other. Something that I think is very classic, and again I don't see too often. Now bear with me, because if you're a ribbon hater on trees like I am, like I personally don't like the look of a tree that's just like wound up with ribbon. It looks like it's just like trying to escape out of the ribbon to me. If that's your thing, obviously go for it, but just for my own personal style, I like things to look a little bit more relaxed. But I do also love ribbon, and I'm really excited to put my tree up this year because I want to pick a specific color of velvet ribbon, maybe like an inch wide, nothing too wide. I think that's the key to doing ribbon in a very like understated way on a tree, is pick a smaller width. So I think I'll go for about an inch, maybe even smaller. In a velvet, of course. I absolutely love velvet at Christmas. If you can't do velvet at Christmas, then when can you? It's just the most quintessential Christmas fabric. So get to the point. Oh my god, I've been talking about this for so long. I want to put bows on my tree, okay? bows. I think that bows that are tied, again, in just a very loose, casual way, give them quite a bit of a tail, let it fall a little bit, just kind of get all messed up in the tree. I don't know, there's something about it. I think it's just so quintessential and cute, but classic at the same time. Another really beautiful, classic thing that I don't see a lot of people doing, maybe a little bit more so lately, but that is using a ceramic urn to put your tree in instead of a tree stand. I don't know how to do this, mechanics wise, especially if you have a real tree. I don't know how this would work, but give it a try. I don't know, I love the look of it. I think some additional accents that you can incorporate into your decor if you want to go for this more classic look is to also incorporate flowers and fruit amongst your like holiday greenery. I love citrus. I think oranges on their own are a really great piece of decor. There's something about them that's just so Christmassy and just like fresh looking to me. Obviously they're fruit, but I mean it doubles as your groceries anyways, so if you're picking up some oranges at the grocery store, maybe when you get them home, put them in a really beautiful ceramic dish in the center of your table, and that's gonna look festive, and you can just pick from them out of there. The next home style that I want to talk about is the more minimalist home. Now, when I'm talking about minimalism in this sense, I don't really gravitate towards anything too modern. So for me, a minimal Christmas is more of like a Scandinavian look. It's just very natural and pared back and simple. A great source of inspiration for this kind of look is the YouTuber House of Valentina. I absolutely love her. We have very different styles, but I love her approach to design, and her husband are very into Christmas. So if you need some like modern Scandinavian inspired Christmas decor and just design in general, that's where you need to go. And she uploads super frequently, so there's a million videos you can go back and watch. So for a color scheme for this sort of style, I would go for very light neutral tones, and then I think a nice simple pop of color is really nice. So when you're bringing in foliage, if you want to go for that simple pared back kind of Scandinavian look, I think something that's really pretty to do is bring in just a simple branch of red berries. Honestly, for a minimal look, any single branch of something in a really nice glass vase or like a demijohn or a wine bottle or something like that, just something simple that looks like you kind of just threw it in there. But I think it is nice during the holidays and just the winter months in general, because everything is so much more muted in terms of color. Especially if you have a home that's very neutral, I think a little pop of color is nice. So in terms of accents for this kind of style, I really love bulbs at this time of year. And when I say bulbs, I mean like plants, like paper whites and amaryllis and things like that. I think a really beautiful look with a bulb is to plant it in a clear vase, something where you can kind of see the dirt in amongst it, and then stuff it up with moss, maybe a little branch in it, or maybe I'm getting carried away. See, it's too hard for me to be minimal because I'm such a maximalist, but just that whole natural feeling, bringing things in that are natural but still fresh. If you are the kind of person where Christmas greens kind of feel overwhelming to you in your space, then things like berries or bulbs are a really good option for you. I also think that if you lean more towards this modern, minimal sort of style and you want your house to just feel a little bit more cozy during the winter months, but you don't want excess clutter, candlelight is an amazing way to do that. Candles everywhere, twinkle lights everywhere, they don't really take up any space. It's not like excess decor, they just kind of add to the atmosphere. And I think that accent pillows and throw blankets, if you're the kind of person that uses those things already, just swap them out for something a little bit more maybe luxe feeling at this time of year, and they contribute to that kind of cozy atmosphere without the additional clutter of like decorations. The next category I have is where my inner maximalist absolutely shines, and that is the Kitschy Christmas lover. So this is all things vintage Christmas. It's kind of tacky, but in an ironic, funny way. Lots of mixed colors, mixed materials, just layers on layers, just really retro and fun. If you want to go the kitschy route for a color scheme, I honestly think that any colors go. I love the look of a rainbow Christmas, especially if you have kids. I think that's such a fun thing. When I was younger, we had a tree in our living room and it was always very classy and beautiful. And then my sister and I had our tree upstairs that we got to just go wild on and get the most kooky, colorful, non-matching, weird decorations that we wanted to. If you're like me and you have this kind of kitschy urge inside of you, but you don't want that spilling out in your entire space, maybe consider if there's like one room in your house where it makes sense for you to go that kitschy route. So for me, in my bedroom, for example, I like things to be very subdued, very neutral, and just like calming. But in my sewing studio, for example, that's where I like the kitschiness overload to happen. So I have this little like 3 or 4 foot pale pink tinsel tree that goes in the studio. Any fun, weird, retro decorations that I've thrifted over the years, those go in the studio. And then in here, I like to keep it a lot more natural and just kind of subdued, that more like classic look. I think if you are a lover of pink like I am, pale pink and red is a really nice way to kind of like dip your toe into the colorful Christmas world without feeling like you have to do multicolored everything. But if you just want a little bit of color that's not like a traditional Christmas color, I think pale pink and red just go perfectly together, especially in wrapping. Such a cute combination. Okay, so for foliage for this sort of style, I think that white pine is the greatest way to create that sort of Charlie Brown look. It's very sparse, there's a lot of branch that shows through, and it's just kind of wonky. The way that it grows is sometimes very uneven and just kind of weird. So if you have a collection of weird ornaments that you want to display, I think that one big branch of white pine is a really nice way to do that, because it does offer quite a bit of branch space, if that makes sense, where there aren't needles. So there's a lot of ornament hanging opportunity, which is very important. Okay, for the tree, I think the kitschy tree is the most fun kind of tree. I love tinsel. Honestly, I like the string tinsel, I like the loose tinsel, any type of tinsel, I love it. I love a sparkly tree. However, I will say, I know tinsel is very wasteful, so I think if you're going to use the loose tinsel, make sure you reuse it as much as you can. But a good alternative for that, if you want to go for that kind of like dripping look on your tree, just full of sparkles and kookiness, is to get like strings of metallic beads. I think this is a really fun look if you do sort of like swags of them going around the tree, or if you go for more of a tinsel look where you take like shorter strings of the beads and sort of just drape them on top of the branches so it looks like they're like spilling down the tree. Oh, I just love that tree. I love that tree. No, I love that look on a tree where it just looks like it's dripping with sparkles. Some other great options for this kind of kitschy Charlie Brown sort of feel is popcorn and cranberry garlands. I think those are so classic. I don't think that that would be the best in our house because we do have mice, so I don't think that would work for us, but maybe give it a go. I don't know. Also, vintage glass ornaments. I love looking for these at thrift stores and antique markets. They do get a little bit pricey, but it's a really fun thing to kind of collect over the years if you just want to buy a few every year. Okay, accents. Stay with me here, but disco balls. If you're having a like retro tacky Christmas party, please get some disco balls. I love disco balls in any decor, to be honest. I think that even in the most serious room, a disco ball just adds a little bit of humor. And of course, I couldn't make an entire Christmas video without giving colored lights an honorable mention, because I do think there's a place for them, 100%. I am not a colored light hater, okay? If you are, that's fine, but I just think they're so fun. Now, when I say colored lights, I'm very specific about it. I'm gonna find some pictures and put them up here. Some colored LED lights just don't do it for me. I'm sorry, I don't like LED lights. Sorry. But that very classic, true colored lights look, I'm gonna put up pictures so you know what I'm talking about because I'm not making any sense, but go for the colored lights. Just do it. The next style that we have is something that I can really appreciate, but I would say aside from like Christmas parties, this isn't a style that I lean towards, and that is the Glamorous Christmas. So think, you know, the way the Kardashians do Christmas. I'm thinking like New York City hotel lobby at night, very glitzy, very sparkly. So the color scheme that I would lean towards for this is obviously metallics. I think that if you're going for this more glamorous, sparkly, glitzy vibe, I would steer away from too many colors and just lean into the neutral sparkles, if that makes sense. For foliage for this, if Christmas greens feel a little bit too rustic for you, I would go for something like a magnolia or maybe even like eucalyptus, because they don't have the most traditional like Christmas or holiday sort of look to them. I will say both of those things are very expensive, so if you do get magnolia or eucalyptus, maybe save it for the next year. It won't look like it has as much life to it, but they do last season to season if you just take care of them. For the tree, I think that a lot of times when people want to go for that glamorous look, they want a really sparkly tree, and sometimes that just means overloading it with so many ornaments that you can't even see the tree anymore. And as always, like if that's your thing, go for it. But I think if you want to do this glamorous look in a little bit more of an understated way, the key is to go for a lot of very small ornaments that reflect as much light as possible. So that means like little crystals. If you have chandelier crystals just lying around, we buy a lot of vintage chandeliers just at thrift stores, so we just have accumulated 1 million chandelier crystals by now. When you hang those in amongst the tree, like in the tree, so the point is to reflect as much of the lights as you can instead of overwhelming it with the most amount of glittery ornaments as you can. Another great option is these little like teardrop shaped glass ornaments. These reflect light beautifully. So I would go for all of your traditional ornaments that you normally would do. Maybe if you need to make room for these smaller ornaments, pare it back just a little bit, and then make sure that you're placing these small reflecting ornaments as deep into the tree as you can and work your way all the way out. So basically anywhere you put the lights, put the small ornaments, and they will reflect way more light than glitter will, and you're just gonna end up with like a more natural looking sparkle, which is what I personally like, but if you like glitter, go for it. So for accents, if you're going for a more glamorous feel, I think again reflecting light is huge. So lots of metallics, lots of glass, lots of reflective material, so that anywhere you put twinkle lights or candlelight, it's reflecting and throwing as much sparkle as it possibly can. Speaking of that, twinkle lights, I think they need to go everywhere. If you want it to be glitzy and glamorous, you need as much twinkle as you can. And then for accents, if you want to make it a little bit more cozy feeling, I think velvets and furs are a great route to go when you're thinking of like accent pillows and throws and things like that. Okay, last but absolutely not least, this is another one of my favorite styles. I would say that I like to mix this with classic, and that's absolutely 100% me, and that is a more rustic look. I don't like the word rustic because I feel like it's become very overused, but for lack of a better word, rustic. So everything is a lot more natural, it's a lot more wild looking, it's kind of just like how it looks when you look outside, but inside. So it's very old world, very European, lots of natural elements going on. If this style is you, a really amazing company, I guess, shop in upstate New York. I haven't been, but trust me, just look at their Instagram feed or give it a quick search on Pinterest. It's called Hort and Pot, and your mind will just go wild. If you need this sort of rustic, wild inspiration, look absolutely no further than Hort and Pot. So the most natural color scheme for this style, I think, is as neutral as you possibly can and as close to something's natural state as you possibly can. So I would just literally go into your backyard or someone else's yard, you know, wherever you can, and just bring natural elements in. So lots of browns, lots of deep tones, lots of greenery, but again, in its very natural state. And then if you want to go for a color, I would say like deep tones like burgundies and those like more rich jewel tones. I think that's the direction you want to steer in. For foliage, I think dried florals are a really amazing option. Vines are also amazing. Just really making things look as natural and as wild as possible. So for me, when I think of this style, I want to picture like an English hedgerow, and I just basically want to take that and put it in my house. So that might be a little bit much for some people, but I personally love that like maximalist natural look. For a more natural tree, I think a really fun project is to try out dehydrating oranges. Just slice them up and put your oven on the lowest setting possible, put them on a cookie sheet and just let them dry. And then you can feed in a little string of twine or like jute, even better, more organic. And you can use these as individual ornaments, or you can create a garland, which is so cute and again just so quintessential. I love almost anything on a garland, so this is the time of year to really go garland nuts. So just keeping the tree kind of as natural as you can or as you want to. I think pine cones are another really great option. Also, if you have pine cones outside, bring them in. Wooden ornaments, anything that suits your kind of organic feel that you've created in the rest of the space. I think accents for this sort of look you might want to keep a little bit more minimal. I think if you do want to kind of rotate in new decor or just kind of freshen things up a little bit, I would still lean towards organic materials. So glass, metal, wood, things like that. I think metals work really well with this, so like brass and copper I think are really beautiful, and vintage stoneware I think is really beautiful as well. But other than that, again, I would just go for lots of candlelight, lots of natural organic materials, and it's all gonna work well together. Okay, that is my comprehensive guide on how to do holiday decor right. I got through that way faster than I thought. That was very efficient, and now all I want to do is decorate. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like down below. That really helps my channel out. You can subscribe down below if you want to know every single time I post a video. I'll be coming out with a lot more holiday content, so stay tuned for that, and I'll see you back here next time.